So thank you for joining our AWS for Data series. Very pleased to be joined by Lucy and Richard from Alfa. Lucy, would you like to introduce yourself?
Of course, very happy to be here. My name is Lucy Rickards and I'm a lead architect at Alfa for our Application Foundations group. I've been working at Alfa for a very long time, about 16 years. Initially I worked on project-based development, but over time I've moved to specialise in web services and messaging platforms, and I'm now the lead architect for the delivery group responsible for all of the platforms on which our products are built.
Brilliant. And Richard?
Yeah, thank you. My name is Richard Huston. I'm a senior solution architect at Alfa. I've been at Alfa about 12 years. I've worked with a number of our customers across the US and Europe on their implementation projects, implementing our software. And now I'm kind of using that experience to shape what we're doing with our products. So I'm working within our product engineering team to shape what we're doing with data and APIs.
So I suppose just to kick things off, and for our viewers who may not be familiar, and if you can, imagine you're speaking to someone very, very simple. It might be hard to imagine that, but if you could please just describe the business problems that you're looking to solve at Alfa.
Sure. So we provide software for the automotive and equipment finance industries. So our customers are all sizes of banks and also the finance arms of car manufacturers. So to give an example, if you were to go out and lease a new car, depending on the manufacturer, there's every chance that it might end up on our software. And our software is used by those companies to manage everything from the initial pricing of that contract, the credit decisioning, all of the initial production of documents, payments, and the full life cycle. So that can include everything like customer service and any kind of interaction with the customer as well. So it's software really for managing that full loan and lease life cycle for our customers.
Okay, so pretty important stuff then, right? Brilliant. And Lucy, I suppose just to take us back a little bit, you mentioned you've been at Alfa some time now, but could you give an indication perhaps of what was the initial vision of Alfa when the company launched all those years ago?
Well, we actually launched way before I joined, way back in 1990, but at that point we were a consultancy supporting a legacy piece of software. We went on to develop our own version of that. It was primarily targeted at the big ticket finance industry, and we had a lot of success there. But of course, over the years, technology evolved very rapidly, and so did we. So in 2010, we launched the current version of our product, which is a web-based Java application, and something we could be really confident in being able to evolve for the long term and deploy on the cloud. That platform has been a real success story for us. It's seen us able to expand into many other markets, including the US, and also it's able to service contract volumes that we could never have dreamed on when we first started out back in 1990. Over time, our business has evolved, and we've moved more and more to become a product-focused company. So our strategy is aligned with that. So we started to build up offerings such as our Alfa Start offering, which is a cost-effective version of our product Alfa Systems, targeted really at small businesses. It comes complete with configuration. The idea being it requires the minimum of development effort to get it in and adding value to the business. And in a similar vein, we've also placed a focus on Alfa Cloud, our cloud-based Alfa Systems offering.
Okay, fascinating. And I suppose Richard, in that context of that evolution and that journey, what role has AWS played in that journey for you and from your perspective?
Yeah, especially in the last, I'd say, 7 years or so, it's become really critical for us. So as Lucy just mentioned, one of the key parts of our strategy now is Alfa Cloud, our SaaS offering. And if you were to go back to 2015, we were deploying our software on-premise with our customers. So there were a variety of different deployment approaches there. And as Lucy mentioned, it's a Java application, it's platform agnostic, so it could run on a lot of different things, but it meant that we were working with our customers to support them running it on lots of different combinations of hardware and software. What's been really important for us is moving to Alfa Cloud. So we launched Alfa Cloud with our first live customer in 2017, and Alfa Cloud runs on AWS. So for us, that's meant that we've been able to shift our strategy to cloud first. And when we're engaging with new customers, we're able to talk to them about launching quickly and effectively on Alfa Cloud. So they can have Alfa running on day one. After signing contracts, they can be up and running with their Alfa Systems environment, and they can get moving instead of needing to have any long lead time to starting to deploy the software or upskilling. The other thing that's really crucial for us is the AWS partnership has allowed us to leverage additional technologies, additional tool sets that we've been able to bring into our product offering. And what we've done is we've built our own deployment model around the AWS APIs that allows us to run many single tenant deployments with all the benefits of multi-tenant, because we work in a very regulated industry. Our customers are banks. And so it's been really important for them that they can have all of the comfort and security and assurance of running single tenant in a well-regulated cloud deployment, while we can provide the efficiencies and the economies of scale that come with multi-tenant deployments. And that's something that we've worked very closely with AWS to be able to do.
That's brilliant. Yeah, it's a real fine balance to strike, isn't it? And sounds like you're doing that. So that's great to hear. And Lucy, anything you'd add on that?
Well, I agree with all of that, and I would add to that one of the most challenging parts of some of our implementation projects has been supporting our clients in how they deploy Alfa systems when there's such a huge variety of different platforms on which they were trying to deploy. And it's been great to really be able to focus on one deployment platform. We've got a really great, robust solution for infrastructure as code based deployments now, which Richard was discussing. In fact, we've actually just published a blog post on that. So I'd encourage everyone to have a read of that on our engineering blog. And it's just been great focusing on one cloud supplier as well, because it's really enabled us to build a bigger and better relationship and a really, really deep understanding of the way in which Alfa Systems gets deployed for our clients.
Fantastic. And that's really nice to hear as well. So thank you. So just switching gears a little bit. So we're in a very fast-moving industry, and technology is really motoring forward in many different ways. And given how things are changing and how quickly things are changing in the industry landscape, especially when we think about the emergence of generative AI, for example, AWS, we think one thing that's sort of remained constant and will remain constant is the importance of data and how central data is to being able to harness new technology and being able to take advantage of that. And we think it can really be a differentiator. So in that context, how would you define a successful data strategy, and what role would you say data plays in your company's overall strategy?
Well, I can certainly talk about what we consider important in terms of data. So we're both a software and a delivery company, so we have a number of threads to our data strategy. One of those is financials and data on productivity and utilization. So that's really key for us to inform our corporate strategy. We have a number of tools that help us with that. We use Workday and Jira, various other types of things to draw together appropriate MI so that we can then make good decisions on that basis. And then, of course, as a software company, having data to drive our product strategy is also really important. This can be quite challenging because we're a B2B business. It means we have relatively few clients. So a lot of the data we have in this area tends to be qualitative, based on face-to-face meetings with clients and feedback. And some of the quantitative data is based on surveys of clients and that sort of thing. Our clients, we still have a lot that are still running on premises, and they're very, very conscious of data security, as you can imagine, with the industry that they're in. So we have to be very careful how we analyse what we view very much as our customers' data. I mean, that's borne out by the recent rulings on Google Analytics in the EU. But we do hope to be able to do more in this area, especially with Alfa Cloud, where we are running Alfa for our clients within AWS. But obviously, just to come back to the point, that all of that is very, very important for driving product strategy. It's a key use of data. Another thing that I think we can talk about in this area is, as a delivery company, simplification is very important to us. So analysing the data we get back on the efficiency of our implementation and upgrade projects with our clients. So looking both on our side and their side at areas that perhaps could become more efficient and how we can best support our clients. That's another really key area of data strategy. And finally, I think part of any data strategy is having some sort of standardized way of recording and analysing the data to make it as easy as possible for consumers to consume that data, and drawing all of the different sources of data together so we can really get the most value out of it.
I love how pretty much every point you made there was all about making your customers' lives easier and working back from their requirements and their needs. It seems very clear that that's a central tenet to your approach. But really interesting to hear how data plays a role there. And Richard, on from your perspective, anything you could add?
Yeah. So as Lucy was mentioning, one of the things Alfa Cloud lets us do is have much more ready access to the kind of information we need to better support our customers. So, for example, our operations teams that are managing the Alfa Cloud service and our support teams, they can respond much more quickly if anything is happening. In fact, often they can be aware of issues before a client is even aware of it, and they can resolve it very promptly because they have direct access. And that's a real contrast to what it was like when we have customers deploying on-premise, because we don't have that direct access and we'd often have a lot of back and forth. So that's been huge in terms of having immediate access, and like I said, we can often know about problems before our customer is aware of them. We can address them proactively. And in fact, we've been doing more work in that area to kind of pull out statistics. As Lucy said, the data security is very important, so it's always anonymized statistics about usage of the application, about any issues or areas for performance improvements or things like that. And we're able to use that to inform the way that we're supporting our customers in Alfa Cloud. And crucially, the other thing that is a big focus for us is understanding our customers' data strategy. So we are a B2B software SaaS provider, and it's really important that the decisions we're making are with an understanding of our customers' data strategies, how they use their data, what they're using it for, how they're moving it around and implementing different data solutions with it. And therefore we're informing the decisions we're making in our product. So we think very carefully about how we make that data available to our customers. We treat all of the data that we've been able to provide our customers from Alfa, we treat as an API. So we've spent a lot of time over the last 10 years or so investing in that kind of reporting data layer, investing in tools such as a REST API for getting data out of that reporting data layer. And we're moving to add additional capabilities in Alfa Cloud to make it even easier to access that data, and, for example, moving it cross-cloud, because some of our customers might have their analytics in Google Cloud or Azure. And it's important that, we've made a strategic choice to run on AWS. It's important that we can move that data around as easily as possible. And it goes to something Lucy was saying earlier about the speed of implementation. That's really critical for us. We want to be able to move more quickly in terms of implementing our software, and ease of access to that data to move it into our customers' data lakes or data warehouses. That's critical for us. So that really shapes our product roadmap.
Yeah, I imagine that really helps set you apart as well in terms of that ease of access and just sort of removing the problem before it becomes one for the customer. So just in terms of being able to bring that to life a little bit with an example, could you share any insights or decisions that were driven by that use of data?
So there's definitely some examples of key insights we've gained from using the data that we have on our own operations, for example. So for Alfa Cloud, we've been able to validate our strategy because we have data that shows, for example, that resolution time for customer issues is down 37% for Alfa Cloud customers. So we're able to use that data to validate strategic decisions that we've made, the directions we've taken with going cloud first, and encouraging our customers to take Alfa Cloud because it allows for better results for them.
Yeah. And Lucy, any examples you could share?
I think it's really interesting to think about how our clients have used the data stored within Alfa Systems to inform their own decision making. So one of the good examples here is that Alfa Systems allows champion challenger workflow configuration. So it's possible for our customers to do controlled A/B testing of their business workflows. And then once that's in place, they've got access to real-time workflow performance and efficiency data, and they can analyse that, and that can then allow them to go on to optimise their business processes, and that's been really valuable for a number of our customers.
So I think I'll come back to you, Richard. So you've talked a little bit about supporting your customers' data strategies. So when it comes to product design, what kind of product design choices have you made in order to do that?
Yeah, so I think what's been really key is first of all, we start with understanding what our customers are trying to do with the data. And Alfa Systems provides a really rich kind of data platform for our customers in a sense. It's the heart of their business. And so it has financial data, it has business process data, it has a really wide range of data on customers and credit applications, things like that. So it's really key for us to understand what our customers are trying to do with that data, and that's shaped how we've built our data API, how we've built access to that data. So on the one hand, we have a kind of a reporting schema layer, and we're able to get that data out provide that through Alfa Cloud. We also have event notifications, because often responding in real time to events is absolutely critical. So we provide those event notifications out through a variety of mechanisms and transport types. And we allow our customers to then respond to those with further interactions with Alfa using our web service API. So we've shaped all of these decisions, we've shaped the nature of our API by understanding our customers' data strategy and what it is they're trying to do with that data.
Yeah, that's brilliant. And I just love that approach, and it's something that I think a lot of people could learn from. And Lucy, I think there was something you wanted to share as well on that point.
I think Richard's actually talked about, I was going to talk about our business event notifications, which Richard's already mentioned. But I would say one of the things we prioritise is trying to provide a number of means by which our customers can consume our data that best aligns with their own integration practices. So the lightweight event notifications, backed by our really extensive web service API, provides a really good solution for some of our customers to be able to react to changes within the data in near real time.
Good, thank you. And I think, Lucy, I'll stay with you for the next question. So in terms of, if you can share, are there any key roadmap items that you've identified that will ensure that you continue to support your customers' data requirements, and what role does AWS have to play perhaps in any of that?
Well, we're really excited about our CDC project. So we've talked about how we consider it very important to make sure our customers can easily and reliably access their own data in a way that works for them. And something that's come up a lot is a requirement for CDC. It's interesting, what CDC means, it seems to be different for different people. Yeah. So we have a number of requirements within this area. For instance, some of our clients require replication of the data across different cloud solutions or different types of databases. So we're working on a number of solutions for our clients within this area. And as part of that, we're looking to incorporate Kafka into our hosted solution.
Great.
And as part of that, we're currently working with AWS to incorporate MSK as a really good solution for providing a Kafka cluster within Alfa Cloud.
Brilliant, I'm glad to hear that. And just for the benefit of any viewers who don't know, CDC stands for?
Change Data Capture.
Change Data Capture, thank you very much for sharing. And I think there was, correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't there also, I know our teams are engaged with regards to QuickSight as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's been one of the advantages for us, is that there's all of these tools in AWS that we can start to look at to leverage and enable new capabilities in Alfa Cloud. So Lucy's mentioned MSK, which is really foundational for being able to provide our data more easily for our customers to consume cross-cloud or to their data warehouse solutions, whether that's Snowflake or other data warehouse solutions. But we also want to be able to provide insight in where the data is in place in Alfa systems. So we've looked at things like QuickSight to be able to provide that kind of embedded BI capability, where our customers are able to use that data in place as well, and we're able to provide more insight. And we've also been looking at, more recently, potential capabilities with SageMaker and Bedrock for AI and machine learning, again, to be able to use that data in place and offer additional value to our customers with their data. Because it is their data. We are supporting their use of their data on our SaaS service, and so being able to use additional AWS services to enable new capabilities is really, really valuable for us.
Yeah. No, well, watch this space. Then it sounds like there's some quite exciting things coming. So, we've seen that infusing data-driven insights into product development workflows can be transformative. So, how do you ensure that data-driven insights are making their way into product development?
Well, we actually have an internal team that is focused on improving our development efficiency. And they collect data from a number of sources in a number of ways. So regular surveys of developer experience, various metrics around build times, churn, dependency graphs, that kind of thing. And that data allows that team to detect potential areas that could be made more efficient, and just to monitor the overall health of the development process, and to take whatever actions they can to improve that process overall. Another thing they're responsible for, which is really interesting, is identifying ways of collecting and presenting data to support our functional teams. So our product is divided up into functional areas. Different teams own those functional areas. So it's collecting relevant data and providing dashboards relevant to those teams to let them take responsibility for those metrics and any actions that come out of that. An example of that is all of our teams have a release readiness dashboard, which pulls together data from a number of sources around the state of the tests, whether there are open tickets, and a whole range of things that feed into whether our product is ready for release. And that's been a huge advantage for our development and release process. From a product strategy point of view, we talked previously that a lot of our data is qualitative. The way we make sure that the data that we have feeds into our product roadmap is via our head of product, and we have product owners who are embedded within our delivery groups to make sure that actually feeds into the roadmaps in our various areas. Finally, from a corporate strategy point of view, we're currently working on building out our financial planning and analytics team. So we've identified a set of data points and KPIs that the company leadership team is interested in, and we're focusing on how we can best capture those to feed back to them.
Brilliant. Yeah, I love how you talked about using data in terms of the product strategy and development. We try and do a similar thing at AWS, where we have product feature requests that will be logged with various sort of customer requests come in, and our product owners are able to see how many requests there are and how much need there is for a particular feature or service. Would you be able to share an example where such a data-driven insight has maybe dramatically, or maybe not that dramatically, changed the direction of a product feature or a product sort of roadmap? Have you had any examples of that?
The one that immediately springs to mind for me is perhaps not so much from our clients, but actually from our development process and the data that we collect there. So we've been working for a while now on the structure of our code, on modularizing our code. As part of this, we've been capturing really detailed structural data about our code base to gain a better understanding of our internal APIs, and also so we can really focus our efforts in the right places to make the biggest difference to our development. For example, one of the things that we've been able to do with this is identify where perhaps a really long dependency chain is contributing to a long build time, and highlighting where we might be able to break that up to deliver really a lot of value in minimizing build time. Has a huge effect on developer experience and the efficiency of our development process. For this, we use a number of tools, some of which are custom written by us, and some are off the shelf, like Sonar is an example of those. Another internal example that I'm really keen on is around developer setup. So we incorporated into our application the collection of metrics around startup times. Is a big cost as a developer working on something, is how long does it take to start up and test the application. And based on that, we were able to feed back to developers sort of optimizations for local setups to keep that time as low as possible, and that's also delivered a lot of value. And I even have another example from our internal process that we've been very pleased with. We have very extensive integration test coverage. Some of those tests are quite long running, some of them are quite intensive in terms of requirements. So we have an elastic CI infrastructure that runs those tests. And we've really focused on collecting a lot of data there that has enabled us to optimize the plan for which tests run when, to allow us to manage our costs in that area, but also to ensure that we get feedback to our developers as quickly as possible. So that's been a real success story, I think, as well.
And a real theme of speed there, isn't there? So getting feedback quickly, being able to iterate quickly, being able to deliver quickly for your developers and in turn your customers, which, as you mentioned earlier, Richard, is such a key value point for them. Right? So the tech landscape's bursting with various different tools and various different services, each of them promising all sorts of different features and benefits. We recommend that our customers pick something that's robust, but also that they pick the right tool for the right job. So with that in mind, how do you at Alfa decide on the technologies to support this product strategy that we've talked about?
Well, first of all, we do our research to look at what's out there. And where possible, we prefer the use of open source tooling. And what we're looking for is something with a proven track record and evidence that there's already a wide uptake and a very active community maintaining it. We're looking for something that's going to stick around for the long term. I think we're talking about data, and for data tools in particular, data security is a really important consideration. So we're looking for things like how quickly are any vulnerabilities that crop up patched in the tool? Is it something that makes security simple when we're using the tool? We have to be very mindful of our customers here because they work in a highly regulated environment, and we need to ensure that any new tool that we do take on meets what could be some very rigorous requirements on their part. Other things that are important are supportability. So we're looking for something that is going to be easy from a maintenance and monitoring point of view. And another very important part is it easy to learn? We're expecting our developers to be able to work with this tool. Is it something they're going to be able to pick up easily? Is it something that if we're recruiting, we might reasonably be able to expect an experienced hire to have experience in? Another thing to consider as well with some of our choices is it something that might directly add some value to our clients? Is it something that they might be able to make use of as well, or something they're already familiar with? And finally, depending on the type of tool, we have to look at how we want to operate it. Is it something that we want to operate ourselves, or is it something that's potentially offered as a service by someone else? I think you've got something to say on that.
Yeah, so I mean, one of the most recent examples of this has been our decision around Kafka, Apache Kafka. So for all of the reasons that Lucy mentioned, we chose Apache Kafka as the platform of choice for providing event-driven change data capture. It's open source, it's very widely used, very well supported, really active community, very well regarded by our customers. Their data teams have expertise in using it. So, if we're providing a Kafka cluster effectively as an API, their data teams will be familiar with working with that. And so once we'd made that decision, we had the decision around how are we actually going to run it. We could have gone down the route of running it ourselves, but as Lucy mentioned, we have to think about the upskilling required there, and we have to think about the operations cost to us. We would basically need additional people in our cloud operations team to be managing Kafka clusters as part of our deployment. And so we worked with AWS. We were looking at MSK, so managed streaming for Kafka, as a managed service solution, and that allowed us to kind of no longer need to address some of that extra effort in operations and setup. We could spin up a Kafka cluster, configure it to our use case, and use the managed service. So we're constantly evaluating that, because there's obviously a cost versus benefit to every decision, but the cost of operating some of these things ourselves sometimes means that we make the decision to go with that managed service, and again, that's been really useful that we have the access within our Alpha Cloud deployment model to add in those additional managed services.
Yeah, it allows your team to focus on your differentiated value and lets us, in this case, take care of some of that undifferentiated work. That's really interesting, and thank you for sharing all of the decision factors that go into how you make these choices. I suppose one question would be, how do you strike that balance between tried and true and tried and trusted versus the new cutting edge, exciting things that might be coming out?
Well, we are always very curious to see what's in the pipeline for the future, even if we do tend to prefer proven tools to experimental ones. As a company, the way we address this is we hold regular innovation days and hackathons, and we encourage our developers to experiment with what's out there. And even if it might not be something that we'll use immediately, it can provide us with inspiration, and it also keeps us aware of it, and we can see how it progresses and potentially consider incorporating it in the future.
Brilliant, love that. Sounds like a fun place to work as well, right? And Richard, any examples as well you could share?
Yeah, so I mean, one of the great things about the innovation process that Lucy was mentioning is that we have a full kind of process for how you take those things to production strength. If you've put together a proof of concept using a new technology, you found that it might add value, basically the company then supports you taking those things through to a full strength production feature. And we've been looking more recently at some of the AI and machine learning capabilities. We've been looking at what we can do around potentially creating some chatbot tools that might provide information about Alpha systems. So this goes to our drive to be able to implement more quickly. If we were to have a kind of AI chatbot interaction that allows you to ask questions about our software. We have reams of documentation about our software, but something that can make that more readily accessible, that's one of the things that's currently being worked on through our innovation process, and we're working again with some of these AWS tools. So we've been looking at SageMaker and Bedrock and Kendra as the basis for some experimentation and early proof of concept work. And that's really crucial to how we work as a company. It does allow us that freedom. Within an innovation day or a hackathon, we have the freedom to kind of look at anything. We don't constrain what people look at. We kind of give people the freedom to look at any tooling, any approach, and we try to support that. And so that's enabled us to really experiment and move forward with newer technologies in a kind of structured way.
Yeah, brilliant. I love that. And it's it probably leads quite nicely into my next question, which is about the future. None of us have the crystal ball as much as we wish we did. But given the pace of change in the software industry, we've talked about AI in particular, and just how that's sort of changing the way we're operating, the way we're thinking. Lucy, how do you envision the future and the role that data plays in that future in particular?
Well, I think we're already seeing some of the impact with AI and machine learning. In the development process, it's a huge boon in terms of assisting developers with putting together solutions. I think I'd sum it up. In my mind, it's going to allow us to far more easily automate a lot of the routine tasks that we have now, based on the data that we have. So particularly when we're looking at SaaS platforms, it's going to be great for taking the data, predicting usage trends feeding into scaling and cost analysis and performance, and there's going to be a huge range of advantages that we'll be able to get from all of that. I'd also expect that analysis of telemetry data will be a big thing in that area, should become a lot more sophisticated as we go forwards, and hopefully it'll become easier to detect problems earlier and take action far more efficiently than we have been able to do in the past. I think data-driven streamlining of user experience is also going to be a big part of that as well. However, thinking about the industry that we work in as a whole, I think there are also going to be some challenges. So there'll be challenges out there in relation to guaranteeing data privacy and ethics. Guaranteeing the correct and legal handling of data is going to be an added complexity, I think.
Yeah, it's so important, isn't it, as we think about the future, not just to think about the exciting bits, but the potential pitfalls to make sure we're navigating those as well. Richard, what's your sort of perspective on that?
Yeah, so as Lucy mentioned, it's something we have to approach very carefully in such a heavily regulated industry. But I think one of the things that's been a dramatic change over the past year or so, apart from just the general increased interest in AI and machine learning, is a move to more widely accessible applications of machine learning. So there are more opportunities with machine learning as a service. So different providers, including AWS, now offering things like large language models as a service, and also making machine learning capabilities more accessible to teams throughout a business. So there are things that we've been experimenting with, for example, with SageMaker Canvas, where actually that makes the data something that is more accessible, or the machine learning techniques are more accessible to people throughout the business, whereas previously it was a bit more arcane. Some of the machine learning techniques were constrained to people who had a background in machine learning, and so that's one of the things I think is going to be a really big shift, is as those tools and those techniques kind of spread throughout the business, and I think it's important, we're treating it as very important that we enable that. So we have an AI working group that's ensuring that we have a framework in place for ourselves to determine how we use these new tools, how we make sure that those groups across our engineering team that Lucy mentioned earlier have the tool set to be able to leverage AI and machine learning capabilities, because I think that's going to start to become much more widespread in terms of who's using them and how.
Yeah, that's really, really interesting, because as the technology enables that democratization, it's really important that you have the environment and the structure set up within your organization to empower people to actually take advantage of that. So in terms of then your roles as architects, because I'm sure many of our viewers will also share similar job titles, how do you envision the role of the solutions architects changing as with that future we've just discussed?
Well, I think the shape of architectures has really changed a lot recently. SaaS has meant a total shift away from sort of classic monolithic architecture, on-premises deployment. The emphasis is now very much on cloud-native solutions. That means there's been a real shift in focus on ensuring scalability, availability, performance, cost efficiency in a cloud environment. Backing up all of those design decisions takes data. We're having to place a lot more focus on breaking down our designs into smaller components with really robust APIs, and really all architects are now really having to become integrations experts. I think this landscape has also had a lot of implications for our attitudes towards security and compliance. It used to be that it could largely be considered an ops problem, in that you had a single frontier that you had to guard. Whereas now I think we need to be thinking about security in our designs right from the very beginning of design and development.
Yes. Yeah. And Richard, I think Lucy's covered that very well, but are there any additional tips that you might give for the architect of tomorrow?
Yeah, I think, kind of in line with what we were talking about with our process for experimenting with new technologies and new techniques, I think that's one of the key things. We always talk about how fast-moving tech is, and that's ever increasing. And I think being willing and able to experiment with these new technologies. I remember, for example, when ChatGPT first came out, one of the first things I did was go and have a play with its API, just to kind of understand how that worked and what it could do. And that led me to have then further questions for our friends at AWS about what would be coming down the line in terms of API capabilities for large language models. So, so I think that desire to experiment and play with new technologies is really critical for an architect now.
Yeah, it's probably one of the things that draws many of you to these job roles, right? Is that that curiosity and that quest for constant learning. So in terms of then Alfa's strategy and Alfa's future, what would you say excites you most about how this is now evolving as we look forward?
Well, I'm really excited about continuing with our CDC project to better support our clients' data requirements.
Richard?
Yeah, I would echo that, and I would say that the things that we were then going to build on top of that data platform that we have for our customers as well. So I mentioned some of the things earlier regarding BI capabilities and machine learning capabilities. I think one of the things I'm thinking at the moment in terms of especially AI and ML capabilities is we don't know yet what we're going to be doing with this data, and that's quite exciting. It's always been the case. So when we work with our customers, often they don't know what they're going to do with all of this data yet. They can keep coming up with new applications for it. But as these new technologies become more readily available and provided as a service, there's a huge range of potential applications out there that we definitely haven't even thought of yet. So I think that's very, very exciting because we're planning to work very closely with our customers. We've already engaged them on certain proofs of concept where machine learning techniques can help them deliver better outcomes. And so I think that's something we're going to continue working very closely with our customers on how we can leverage those new technologies.
Brilliant, brilliant. Well, look, thank you both so much for some really fascinating insights. I've really enjoyed the discussion. I've learned a lot, certainly. And just before we wrap up, are there any final thoughts or messages that you want to share with the viewers, or if not, where can they find you and where can they learn more?
Well, the company is very active on LinkedIn, so that's a great way of keeping up to date with what we're up to if you're interested, as well as to reach out to us with any questions. We've also got an Engineering at Alfa blog on Medium that goes into a little bit more detail on some of the technical topics we've discussed today, in fact, so I'd encourage anyone that's interested to have a look at that.
Thank you. And Richard, anything to add?
No, just thank you very much for having us.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you both.